we've got our PowerPoint presentation here, and I'm just going to check if you can give me a thumbs up if you can see the PowerPoint. Perfect. Thanks, Karen. Okay, so today's session, it's the last of our 3 Hui sessions. It's our health and safety session on incident reporting. So tonight's session, we are going to talk about what is an incident report, the reasons we complete an incident report. We're going to go through the severity scale for a reporting. How do we complete an incident report, how to upload an incident report, and there will also be an option for question and answer session. So if anyone has any burning questions, then there'll be a time at the end that you can ask those questions as well. So just letting a few more people into the session here. So those are what we're going through. What is an incident report? Why we complete incident reports, severity scale for reporting, how do we complete an incident report, how to upload an incident report, and then an option for question and answer. So we'll start off with what is an incident report? So we've got a nice little definition here that came from Safety Culture. So when we talk about an incident report, it's a tool that documents any event that may or may not have caused injuries to a person or damage to a company asset. So it's used to capture injuries and accidents, near misses, property and equipment damage, health and safety issues, security breaches, and misconducts on the worksite. So when we talk about misconducts in the worksite, for those that run sites where there's children, our Y Kids sites, ECE, that can be behaviour, where we have to incident report behaviour issues and stuff will come under that misconducts in the worksite. So essentially an incident report, incidents, anything out of the ordinary that has happened on a site. So whether there's an accident, incident, it's to do with behaviour, if there's damage to a person, property, and company asset, that is all recorded in an incident report. So the next question is, why do we complete incident reports? So we know what an incident or accident report is, but what is the purpose of us reporting them? So it's completed so that we have a record of incidents within the workplace. So we have requirements under the Health and Safety Act 2015 to record incidents when they happen. There's also requirements under a lot of the other legislation that we work under. You know, we work under the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Social Development. In our accreditation standards, there's requirements for us around reporting what's going on site. So we have a record of incidents within the workplace, and we use those incidents reports for a number of things. So mainly as an investigative tool. So having incident reports allows us to review incidents. We can identify where there might be patterns occurring within the organisation. For example, we use incident reports to have a look through, and we might see that actually the same incident is happening at a number of different sites. So it allows us to then look at that and go, well, actually, there may be ongoing training that's needed within the organisation, or something else is going on that we can rectify because we see those patterns. It also allows us to report to stakeholders. So that could be things like our parents, the schools that we work out of, and also to the YMCA board as well. So essentially, the incident reports are recording on anything out of the usual that's happening within the organisation. So it's about being open and transparent, so recording things that are happening, and we've got a record of them so we can see, we can review them, see what's happening across the organisation, look for patterns, see what's happening. In terms of behaviour, so we talked about, you know, using incident reports for behaviour. They can be used as patterns for behaviour. I can think of an example where I've had a young boy who his behaviour was bad and we incident reported it. We were then able to have a look at his behaviour and saw that it was happening at a particular time every day, so that there was no incidents, and then after about 3 o'clock in the afternoon there was an incident every day. So we were able to then talk to the parent, and they said, well, actually, yes, he has medication. This was on a holiday program, but we thought it would be too much for you guys to give the medication, so we're not been giving it to him in the afternoons over the holiday program. So it enabled us to see that pattern, and we could then have the conversation with the parents around, well, actually, we're equipped to give medication. If you're comfortable with that, we can provide the medication. And that helped that young boy on the program, and it helped us in being able to manage behaviour. So it is also acts as a paper trail. If we have situations where we've had ongoing behaviour and we might have to do a behaviour support plan, we've then got a paper trail. Then we can go back to the parent, the caregiver, the school, and say, here is the trail of incidents. This is what's been happening. So we've got a record of things. So any accident, if a parent comes and wants to talk to a centre manager, there's a paper trail of an accident that's happening. So it's really important that we are filling out these incident and accident reports. So we've just talked about what an accident or incident form is and why we do them. Now we need to know, where do we actually upload them? So what you'll see on the screen here is the Y intranet page. Now, it's important to note that on this call here, there are staff members from across many different business units within the organisation. Now, all our business units follow the same health and safety policies, the same incident reporting policies, but sometimes the incident reporting processes just might be slightly different. So, for example, if you work in OSCA, so that's before school care, after school care, holiday program, holiday camp, it's required under our accreditation standards that we need to have parents sign incident reports, and that parents are able to have a copy of the incident report. So they will have a paper copy that's filled out on site that can be signed by the parent before it's uploaded to the intranet. For other business units, support office, Pilmua, non-OSCA camps, they can upload straight onto the intranet into the incident reporting form. For ECE, they have a paper-based reporting process, and we'll talk about that at the moment. But all business units, no matter where you are in the organisation, there is a requirement to upload incident reports onto the intranet. So when you first go onto the intranet page, you can see down the right-hand side where the arrow is that there's a sign saying health and safety forms. Now, excuse me, I just let some people into the meeting. Okay, sorry about that. So that first page I showed down the right-hand side it said health and safety forms. So if you click on that, it then brings up this page, which is all our health and safety forms. So if you even need to find health and safety forms, you can find them here. So you've got our evacuation form, excursion checklist, our risk register, gear checks, risk found, daily hazard check, and this is where you also find the incident reports. Now you'll notice on the top left-hand side, it says OSCA incident. So that's, again, for any program that runs under OSCA. So that's your before school care, after school care, holiday program, holiday camps. And that's because we have a paper form that's completed. It has to be signed by the parent, and then it's uploaded to that incident form there on the intranet. Beside that, it says incident report. So that's all other business units across the organisation. So your Pilmua accommodation, support office, Trentham Gym, Te Pokapū Hapori in the community hub, any other areas across the organisation, you have your incident report form there. Now you notice down the bottom, it also says ECE incident. Now that's currently under construction. So ECE, their reporting processes adheres to the Ministry of Education guidelines. So like OSCA, they have paper forms that they complete, and the parents have to fill them out, and then they currently file them on site. So in the new year, I know that Shabnam has been working on having an online form. So in the new year, that will be set up, and there'll be an extra step where that paper form will be uploaded to the intranet as well. But that's currently under construction, and next year that will be updated, ready for you to use if you work in the ECE. But at the moment, you complete your paper form and that's filed in your files on site. So that's where to find your incident reforms, and then we'll look at how do we complete them online. So when you click on your incident form, it will come up with a form like this. So you can see up the top hand side, if you're a line manager, you'll see the blue button that says view submissions. So that allows you to go in and look at all the incident reports that have been submitted, so that you can then view what incident forms have been submitted. You can see patterns, all that sort of stuff. So if you're a line manager, you will see that blue button. Everyone else won't see that blue button. So when you fill out this form, it'll automatically put in the email address. So whoever is uploading the form, it'll put their email in straight away. You can change that if you need to. It'll then ask for the centre. So whatever centre you're working at, you can put that in. So whatever centre the incident happened, that's what you'll put on the incident form. It then asks for the function that this applies to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go onto the intranet and show you a live form. So if we go onto the intranet, you'll be able to see here we've got a live OSCAR incident form. So as you can see, if we drop down, you can see all the different centres. There's Te Pokapū Hapori, Respite Camp, Breakaway, Support Office. There's also one in there for working from home. So if you are working from home, that is still a workplace. So if an incident happens while you're within your work hours, while you're working from home, you still need to report an incident on here, because if in the future you need medical care or ACC or whatever, we've got a record of that happening. And I can think of just one recently that I saw. Someone was working from home and they spilled a cup of hot coffee over themselves. So they did an incident report of that, because that was an accident that they received within their working hours while they were working from home. So it's important to know that even in the working home environment, it still is considered part of the work environment. And then again, it asks for the function that this applies to. So you have a child or a customer 16 years of age and under, an adult customer and visitor, or a staff member. So you'd put who it applies to, and then you'd write down the activity that was happening. Then there's the person in charge of the activity. So who was running the activity at the time that the incident or accident occurred. And then you can see there's a drop-down list, and there's a whole raft of different incidents. So it's got collisions, you might have had a missing child, out of ratio. So that's where, if you're a ratio-based program such as OSCAR, and you're out of ratio, you will record for matters of transparency that you'd been out of ratio. It might be illness. You might have had an unauthorized visitor on site. A disclosure, so that would be a safeguarding disclosure if you've had that. A trip, fall from height, verbal fight, injury. There's options there for near miss, vehicle crash, poor behaviour, threatening behaviour, food allergies, property damage to the YMCA, property damage to customers. So there's a range of things there that you can select from. If you are doing an incident report and you feel like that there's nothing there that relates to what happened, you can put other. But if you think that we're missing an option there, that you think there should be something extra added, contact me, let me know, and we could add it into the form. It then asks if it resulted in an injury, because it might be an incident reform that didn't have an injury, but if it did, then what kind of injury was it? Now, if there was no injury, you'd put NA, but if there is, then you'd select your injury there. It then asks for the severity. So there's 1 is low and 10, the severity is high. Now, if you are not sure of what the severity is, you can click here. We use the Davidson scale, and I'll go back to our slideshow in a little minute and show you that. But you can also click on there, that button there, and that will bring up the severity scale for you to have a look through. Asks you for date and time of the event, who was involved in the incident, any secondary assistance required, a brief summary of the incident. So what happened, an outcome of any investigations. Now, there's an option here to add files if you have any files for the incident. Now, if you are working with an OSCR, it's mandatory to upload the paper form. So you can't submit the incident report without adding the paper file. And it's really important to note, sometimes it feels like double handling. If you've just written the paper form, you've then got to upload it to the intranet form, and you've got to write in here exactly what happened. Sometimes, you know, you might think, oh, just refer to the paper form and not put anything in here. It's really important that when you are uploading, even if you've got a paper form, that you still put exactly what happened in the online form. And that's because we use these forms to go back and look through the records, to look through patterns. We do reviews, we send the information to the board. When we do board reports, we pull all this information, and we can't always go back and get the paper form. So we use the information that's in that online form to inform us as what's happened. So it's really important that even though you've uploaded a paper form, that you're also filling out all the information and not missing any bits on that online form as well. So once you've got all the bits and pieces in that online form, then you would then click submit, and that would be submitted. So it's really important to note that once an incident online is submitted, it goes through to the manager of your area. If you're in OSCR, it goes through to your area manager. If you're in another area, it goes through to your site or to your line manager. I also get a copy of all the incident reports that come through. So in my role as health and safety, I can look through and review all the incident reports. Are there any questions so far? There's been a lot of information that I've been talking about. Does anyone have any questions to ask so far? You can put your hand up, or you can ask stuff in the chat.
Amy?
Yes.
Hi, it's Judy here at Kandala. Just wondering with the slideshow, so we're not actually seeing any of those sections that you've talked about. I don't know if the screen is meant to be showing us those as you're going through it.
Okay, can you see it now?
At the moment, you can just see incident reporting.
Okay.
Like the big kind of info thing.
Yeah. So I am going back to...
Oh, that one. So that's all there is on that screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I've got the phone here. So we've just been looking at the different
Okay.
drop-down menus.
Perfect. And that might have been my fault as I moved from the slideshow to the form. Maybe I didn't do.
Oh, we didn't get the form.
Yeah, we weren't able to see the form.
Cool. Okay, so what I'll do now. And Silverstream has asked, should head knock have its own injuries thing, as that is the main type of injury we set after school care, and it doesn't really fall under a category? Okay, so are you, I think what you're asking, Angie, is if Head knock should have its own injury section. I'm not quite sure because head knock is completely separate on the incident form. So we'll talk about head knocks in a minute. Can you guys see the screen now?
Yep, we can see.
Perfect. So we went through how to upload to the form. And what we talked about was the Davidson scale. So the Davidson scale is linked to that online form. So if you're unsure around what severity an incident should be, then you can click on that link and see it. So I'll bring up this scale here. So this scale is 1, which is really low, all the way up to 10. And it's across different functions. So there could be impact on participation, injury, illness, social psychological damage, environmental damage, and incident. So if we're looking at the severity ranking 1, it's minor impact. Or if we look on the right-hand side, in simple language would say it was no biggie. So if we're looking at injury, it might be something like a splinter, an insect bite, or a bee sting. If it's behavior, it might be a minor behavioral event, you know, a child calling another child silly names, that sort of stuff. We then move up, so you get level 2 and 3, which is a medium impact. And again, on the right-hand side, it says a bit of a worry. So it's gone from that no biggie to bit of a worry. We then move up to level 4 and 5, which is a major impact. And on that right-hand side, you can see the wording is pretty serious. So if you look at injury, a level 4 would be things like lacerations, frost nip, minor burns, minor concussion, mild hypothermia, mild heat stroke. After that, we go up to level 6. Then level 7, 8, 9, and 10 is the highest. So those are life-changing effects on an individual. And if you look on the right, the wording is a big deal, very important. So it's important to note that if you have to call the police, fire, or ambulance, you automatically rate an incident 6 or above. So anytime when there is a third party involved, so police, ambulance, a child has to go to a hospital, person has to go to a hospital, then it automatically is a level 6 or above. So that's the severity scale. Really important that you get familiar with it, that you have a look through and see where you would rate an incident. So oftentimes when we get incidents coming through, we have what would be quite a minor incident, but it's been rated a 6 or 7. And we also get the opposite, where it might be quite a major incident, but somebody is rated at a level 2 or 3. So it's really important that we are getting those severities correct. And so really important that you are reading through the Davidson scale, you're understanding it. And if you're not sure, ask other people, talk to your manager, talk to your colleagues. Hey, this is the incident. Where do you think it sits on the Davidson scale? And so what I'll talk now is around the reporting process. So we've talked about why we do incident reports, what they are, how we upload to the online reporting system, but this is the actual incident reporting process. So it's really important that you complete the incident and accident report as soon as practically possible. So as close to the incident happening as possible, because of course, the further away from the incident you get, you can't remember as much. Memories change. You can't remember exactly what you saw, what you heard, what somebody told you. So as close to the incident or accident as possible. Ideally, an incident or accident form is completed at the end of your shift. Now, sometimes you might be dealing with a big incident, so it's not practicable to do the incident report at that time, but it must be done within 24 hours. So an incident or accident report cannot be completed and uploaded with more than 24 hours. It has to be done within 24 hours of when the incident happened. Now, if you fill out a level 6 and put level 6 on the incident report, it automatically activates alerts to the senior leadership team, and that includes the CEO. However, it's really important to note that that automatic activation does not substitute the requirement for staff to initiate direct communication with their management team. So even though the incident report process automatically activates an alert for level 6 events, we are still required to alert management. So any level 4 incidents or higher must be notified to the centre or program management manager with 2 hours, and any severity level 6 or higher should be notified to the CEO within 60 minutes. And it's important to note that all level 6 events are also reported to the YMCA board. So Brendan, as the CEO, will inform the board of any level 6 events that have happened. So if you are a site manager, a centre manager, a program manager, you need to be notifying Brendan as the CEO of any level 6 events within an hour. So as close to the incident as possible. If you're a leader on site and an incident happens, you are working with your centre manager straight away to make sure that the CEO is notified. It's also important to note that any incidents that we have involving the head, regardless of severity, are notified to the manager as soon as practicable, and they have to notify the parent. So anytime we have head injuries, we need to make sure that parents are notified, and that's because of how dangerous head injuries can be. So there's things like delayed concussion, so children can look fine and then, you know, they go to sleep and they don't wake up. So we don't want anything like that happening. So we want to make sure that we're notifying parents or caregivers or whoever is collecting a person from our site that a head injury has been had. So little Johnny might knock their head, they may be running around fine, look happy and healthy, a text message to the parent, hey, Johnny knocked their head, they're running around, I'll update you if there's any changes. But it's really important that we're making sure that parents and caregivers know that somebody has had a head injury. Now what I've got here is a copy of the YKids incident and accident report. So this is the form, the paper form that is used for any before, after school, holiday program, holiday camp. As I said before, it's a requirement under MSD that for YKids services, they have paper forms because we have a requirement that parents need to sign incident and accident forms. Other areas within the business will have their own paper form. For example, as I said before, ECE have a paper form that they complete, parents sign, and then they file it away. Areas, head office, the gym will put the information straight into the online incident report. But this paper form is filled out on site and then it's uploaded to the online incident form. So this might look slightly different to other areas of the business that do a paper form, but it contains the same information. So if we look at the top of the form, it asks for full names of people involved. So in this incident report, the name of our person is John Doe. Now it's really important here that we're mindful of privacy. So if you are dealing with an incident or an accident that includes more than one person and it's been signed by parents, we need to do more than one incident and accident form. And so, for example, if this incident had John Doe and Jane Doe, we'd do an incident report with John Doe and refer to Jane Doe as child A. So when we show it to John's parents, they don't know the name of the other child involved, and vice versa. When you upload it to the online form, you can combine those incident forms into one incident and put the children's name in the report that's being loaded. But it's really important we're mindful of privacy when we're getting parents to sign names. So we're not putting the names of other children in incident reports that parents are signing. Is there any questions around that at the moment around the privacy issues with the names. So we've got the names of the people involved, just being mindful of privacy. It's got today's date and the date of incident. So today's date is the date that the incident form is being completed, and the date of incident is the date that the incident happened. Now, as I said before, that should be the same day. In some situations, there may be a delay in the incident report being completed because it's a big incident that you're dealing with, but it must be completed within 24 hours. There's the name of the person who is completing the incident report. So in this case, I'm completing.
Amy, we can't hear you. Amy, you're on mute.
It's very weird. How long have I been on mute for?
About 30 seconds.
Okay. That's weird. Oh, okay. So Nio has asked around the privacy stuff, what if they are siblings? If they are siblings, there's no privacy issues. So if it's a sibling and you're dealing with an incident that involves both the siblings, then absolutely the names of the siblings can go in the same incident report. There's no issue there. It's just when they're not siblings that we need to really be really mindful of privacy in terms of what we're showing to parents. Right, let me go back to where we were. All right, so the manager name, position, title is the most senior person on site. So in this instance, I've put it was Ben on site at the community hub, but it's whoever. It could be the line manager, it could be the site manager. If you're at YKids site, could be the program coordinator. If they're not there, it might be the senior leader. Whoever at the time is the most senior person on site is what goes in that box there. And then it asks for the name of the staff who saw the incident, if any. So if there was a staff member who saw the incident, their name goes in there. Sometimes there might be an incident and there's no staff member that has seen it, so you'd make a note of that. You are writing an incident report based on what is relayed to you from children or customers or whoever the incident is about. You've got the location of the incident, where it happened, and then there's a description of the incident. So whenever you're writing an incident and accident report, no matter what the incident and accident report is, you need to be really specific. So it's exactly what happened. So word for word, either what you saw, what you have observed, or what somebody has told you. So you're not going to give your opinion, you're not going to embellish on things, you're just going to be really simple, exactly what happened. So in this incident, John was walking through the kitchen and tripped over his untied shoelace. He fell onto the floor, landing on his knees and bruising them. As he was falling, he bumped his head on the dining table. John complained of a sore head and knees. So you've said exactly what's happened. The next box is how did you deal with it? So you're going to put there exactly how the incident was dealt with. So John was assisted to stand up and sat down in a chair. An ice pack was applied to his knee and to the side of his head. He was checked for pupil dilation and parents were phoned. So how did you deal with the incident? If it's behaviour, you're going to put exactly how you dealt with the incident. And then it asks for, was anyone hurt in this incident or accident? Sometimes you're doing an incident and accident report, there's nobody hurt, so it would just be a no. And other times it's yes, name of person who was injured, what the injuries were, in this case, a bruised knee, sore side of head, and the first aid. So ice applied to knee and side of head, and the pupils checked for dilation. And then there's also a name there of the person who gave the first aid. So that might be different to the person who is completing the incident report or to who saw the incident. Then there's a specific part here that asks about head injury. And I think that might have been what Silverstream was asking about in the questions. I'm not sure, I'll clarify that. But as I said before, really important that we are notifying parents of any head injuries. And on these paper forms, it asks, you know, about the head injury. Was there a change in consciousness? Did they become drowsy, sick, confused? Lost consciousness, and there's a prompt there to phone 111 in emergency. Then on these forms, there's a space here for the parent to sign. So it has their name, has an option for them to give a comment. They don't need to give a comment, but they must sign and date it. So it must be signed by the parents when involving children on the program. And that's really important. So when we are being audited by MSD, they will come and they will look at these forms, and they in particular look to see if parents have signed them. It's also a good record for us. For example, in a behaviour management situation, if we are having to write a behaviour support form, we have then got a record. You know, if we talk to a parent about behaviour and they say, oh, nobody has ever told me about this behaviour, well, you can say, well, look, actually, here's the incident report. You've signed it. You've made comments on it. You knew that this behaviour had been happening. So it's about having a paper trail. Then it's important that the manager signs it as well. So that's the manager of the program, and making sure that they write any comments around measures to be undertaken due to this incident. Sometimes if you've got a low severity incident, level 1, a child's tripped over their own feet, there's not much you can do to change stuff. But at other times, there are things that you can do. So for in this instance, the walkway through the kitchen is too narrow to be used as a thoroughfare. So we're going to tell staff and children to go around the kitchen instead of going through. And always reminding children to tie shoelaces. There's a space there for the incident severity. So in this case, we've put a 4 to 5. So because it was a 4+, we of course would make sure that our site manager knew that this incident happened, and then it's signed off by the most senior person on site. So this is the paper form that Y Kids complete, and then once they've completed the form and it's signed, then it's uploaded to the intranet. Now it's really important to note that it needs to be uploaded to the intranet even if it's not signed by a parent. So you might have had an incident and the parent was unable to sign, or they didn't collect them that day. And so you've got to email the form to the parent to sign it, or wait for them to come to the next day. That doesn't stop the incident form being uploaded to the intranet. It still needs to be uploaded so that we've got a record of it. Once it's been signed, you can re-upload it, but we need to have it uploaded within, ideally by the end of your shift, but within 24 hours. So that was incident reports. So we've gone through what is an incident report, why do we do them. I've shown you where they are on the intranet and how to do paper forms and also upload the intranet form. I've shown you the severity scale and talked to you around the reporting procedures. So is there any questions around incident reporting? What I'll do is I'll stop sharing my screen. And I can see there's some questions in the chat. So Andrea's asked, can grandparents or someone else collecting the child sign, or does it need to be the parents? It can be somebody else if they are guardian of the child. So if it's the grandparent who always collects from program and they're the person that you're engaging with and having conversations, then they can sign that form. If it's just a one-off and it's only grandparent collecting once, it would be better for the parent to sign that form. So if they can't come in for whatever reason, sometimes within OSCR we have parents who their children walk home, then you can email the form to them, get them to sign in and email it back to you. Is there any other questions around incident reporting? Did anyone have questions around when they should incident report or how to fill out the forms? And feel free to write questions in the chat, or did you say incident must be re-uploaded once signed? Yes. So Tracy, so once we have a parent sign it, we then need to re-upload it so we've got a record of that signed incident report. But it's just really important that we're not waiting on parents to sign incident reports before we upload them, because it needs to be loaded in the system, so we've got that. And feel free, pop your hand up if you've got questions, or ask questions in the chat if there's anything that you have a burning desire to ask around incident reporting. Yes, Shabnam.
Hi. So with ECE, I know you've said, and we've talked about that it's something we're looking at doing next year. But in ECE, we have littlies and we have accidents every hour, small scratches,
Yeah.
little falls and things. So I'm just wondering, once we start doing this, most of the reports, the incident forms are signed at the end of the day when the children are collected. And for even the little accidents, all of the accidents need to be documented on that? Or is it just the severe ones, like 2 or 3 plus ones?
I would do because you've got the littlies, it'll depend what's in your Ministry of Education guidelines, Shabnam. So for Oscar, our MSD guidelines are quite strict in that we should be incident reporting most things. It'll depend on what your Ministry of Education guidelines, but you're right, with littlies, they get bangs and scratches and stuff all the time. So I might just be recording that down somewhere so that you've got a record of it, but it'll depend what your Ministry of Education guidelines in terms of when you have to report and fill out an incident and accident report. For example, I know with camp, I think they don't report anything until it's about a level 3.
Okay. Yeah, because I think our Ministry of Education guidelines says we record any accidents or incidents that if a child gets hurt, even if there's a small scratch, or if they're emotionally upset as well. So we have to record it. But I'm just thinking, like, by the end of the day, we'd probably be putting about 5 or 6 reports every day for all those 1s and 2s.
Yeah,
So that's where I think we will have to kind of look at it and decide which level do we from which level up do we record it or we capture it on the intranet.
Yeah, and we can have that conversation, Shabnam. Within YKids, everything's uploaded, so some of our bigger sites can have 6, 7 or 8 incident reports to upload in a day.
Cool. No, thanks, Amy.
Cool. Andrew said, do you have accident at home reports? For example, if a child comes in with marks or bruising that was sustained from outside the centre, just so that it can't be said it happened at the centre. No, we don't, but that is something that potentially we could look at. Shabnam, you might be able to answer that from an ECE perspective. Is that something that you have within ECE?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Andrea just asked if we have accident at home reports. So we don't. So for example, if a child comes in with marks or bruising, parents would fill it out to say this accident occurred at home. Is that something that you do with an ECE?
No, we normally have that query or that conversation with the parents. If it's a huge bruise or if it's something that we would be concerned about, then we definitely document it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, unless the accident has happened on site while the child was in our care, we don't normally record it. But in saying that, we know our families and we kind of know where the flags are anyway. And of course, you listen closely to the explanation that the parents give. And again, as we all are aware, the safeguarding thing kind of just jumps in from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would be my thing too, Andrea, is if you have a child coming in with bruising or any other injuries that raised a red flag or you're concerned about, you'd be having those conversations, and if need be, writing a safeguarding incident report. While re-uploading, do we write the details again, describing the incident again, because you already have the details? No, you can just put in that it's a re-upload of the form and just reattach the form, and that you're re-uploading it because it's got a parent's signature on it. Does anyone else have any other questions around incident reporting? No, if everybody's happy and there's no more questions, that's fine. I'm going to stop recording.
Oh, Amy, oh.
Yes, yep.